Now, Trump referred to tariffs as the most beautiful word in the dictionary. And recall Liberation Day when people freaked out the stock market went down was 2 or 3%. Since it's rebounded spectacularly, a lot of people lost a lot of money by getting out of the market and not getting into the market because of Trump derangement syndrome. And I went back and I reread part of the book that many people consider to be the book that launched modern economics, Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, often referred to as the father of modern economics. And he talked about free trade, but he did have exceptions for free trade. And the exceptions he listed were 4. 1, protective tariffs for purposes of national security, and Donald Trump has used tariffs in part for that reason. Number 2, to ensure that imports are not taxed unfairly compared to exports. And Trump has talked a lot about how we have very little tariffs with our trading partners and have been that way for decades. He complained about it as a private citizen and said people were laughing at us in other countries. And some of the other countries have dramatically lowered their tariffs against our goods and admitted that it should have happened a long time ago. 3, pressuring governments to reduce their tariffs. I just now mentioned that. And 4th, it's protecting workers in certain industries so they're not suddenly and unexpectedly hit with the need to find new jobs. These were all the reasons for exceptions given by the father of modern economics, Adam Smith, all of which Trump has pointed to. Now, regarding Trump derangement syndrome, I've asked people who hate Donald Trump to call me and tell me the number one reason they hate him. Last week, a guy called up and said he's a bad person. And I asked what makes him a bad person. He talked about the consent decree that Trump entered into, I think it was 1975, with the Federal Housing Agency over allegations that he was refusing to rent apartments to would-be black and brown renters. The consent decree admitted no liability, just that he would change its practices. That was in 1975. I think Trump was 27, 28 years old, something like that. Really? And I just suggested that maybe, just maybe, you might feel the same way about Biden, for whom you voted. Biden opposed not just busing, but opposed it because he thought it would create a racial jungle. Biden praised the racist segregationists that he worked with when he first came into the Senate. Said that we got things done. Then later on he apologized during the 2020 campaign for telling how he reached out to people he didn't like to get things done, and then he realized that people thought it was racist to work with racists, and now he's since apologized for that. And then long record of lying about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington when he didn't, claiming that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela when Nelson Mandela was in prison during apartheid South Africa. He didn't. And the comment he made to Charlemagne the God, you ain't really black unless you know whether you want to vote for me or vote for Trump, meaning that you have lost your blackness if somehow you vote Republican. He apologized for that. I remember when he said that Obama was the first clean African American. I guess he hadn't met any who actually showered articulate. And of course, the comment he made about loving black kids jumping on his lap. I love roaches jumping on my lap. Can you imagine if Donald Trump? So anyway, the people that have this Trump derangement syndrome, I ask you, is it better or worse now that the borders are secured? No new net illegal immigration in this country in the last 10 months. Is it better or worse that criminal, violent, illegal aliens are being arrested and deported? Is it better or worse that gas prices are approaching a 4-year low? Is it better or worse that inflation is now running under 3% per year as opposed to the average 5% per year under the previous administration? Is it better or worse? And notice how Trump gets no credit anymore. It's removed from the headline, the war between Ukraine and Russia. Now that it's not costing us anymore and that our European allies are picking up the tab and we're being reimbursed for the money we're spending on equipment, no one talks about it anymore. I guess no one cares about the Ukraine-Russia war anymore since we no longer have a financial stake in it. But no one mentions it. And Trump literally pressured Europe to pick up the tab, as he pressured our NATO allies to increase their contributions from 2%, which most of them weren't paying, to 5%, which most of them are now paying, with the exception, I think, of one, Spain. And the deal to release the hostages and the remains that Trump negotiated, no one talks about that anymore. I mean, my goodness. And I'm not even mentioning the various peace accords that Trump brags about having achieved. I think he says 7 or 8 or 9 of them in 10 months. I'm talking about the things I just now mentioned. And taking out 3 nuclear sites from Iran. Are you kidding me? Do you think the world breathed a sigh of relief? Of relief when the likelihood of a Islamic, hateful republic, the largest exporter of terror in the world, no longer has the capacity, at least not now, to develop a nuclear bomb? And you have Trump derangement syndrome because Donald Trump what? Because he insults people? Because he refers to certain people as having low IQ? Please explain this to me. From a national security standpoint, are we better than having a president who pulled out of Afghanistan the way he did and then lied and said nobody advised him that the Taliban would come back and the Afghan government would dissolve when, in fact, at least 2 generals testified under oath that's exactly the advice they gave Joe Biden? He left behind $7-8 billion in cutting-edge military equipment, left behind hundreds of Americans and thousands of Afghan collaborators. 13 service members were killed at Abbey Gate. And it inspired Putin to invade Ukraine, inspired Iran to fund Hamas, which ultimately means that there was a direct relationship between the pullout of Afghanistan in October the 7th, 2023, and what the Houthis were doing and Hezbollah in Lebanon. So the world is now worse off because we have a president who's now defanged Iran. Iran's economy, it's on its tail, 40% inflation, and they are now having severe droughts and rationing because all the money they spent on terror, they could have spent on desalination. The Gulf states no longer have water shortages, and they're in a desert area too. Israel's selling water. But Iran, surrounded by water, is now desperate for water. The world is now worse off because of Donald Trump.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.